house. Dr. Cornel West, what is on your mind and or heart?
I want to begin by saluting you in your vision, in your courage, in your determination in that Peace in the Nation magazine, because you were speaking with such power, and you could hear through your voice all of those who held on and stayed strong in the face of overwhelming circumstances. So when you talked about how do you sustain your courage, oh, I could hear Ida B. Wells Barnett. How do you hold on to your vision? I could hear Harriet Tubman and Frederick Douglass. How do you hold on to your integrity? Here comes Aretha and Sarah Vaughan. Meaning what? Meaning that what we do on Truth Time is always keep track of the larger framework before we zero in on the ground. You see, we like eagles. Eagles fly high with style and unbelievable sophistication, but they zero in on the ground with folk who are in trouble, putting the kids on their back and being able to sustain their forward movement no matter what. That's why on this show we always talk about what? Forward. And then what Brother Tavis said, forward. He's absolutely right. Now let's just go back to February 16th, 1965, which is the last speech that our very dear brother Malcolm X ever gave, 5 years before he was shot down. And he talked about the war against Black people, be they in the Congo, dark-skinned people in Asia, be they in Rochester. And of course, in so many ways, he was talking about oppressed people across the world. It was called, it's not an American problem, it's a world problem. That was the title. But he was talking about the war. And when you're in war, my Bible tells me that if you're not fortified, you're going to get not just crushed, but misled and misinformed and misguided. And when I think of what has happened this past week, when Trump taken office, you can see the escalation of the multidimensional war against Black and poor people, beginning with forms of degradation, forms of demeaning, all the immigrants, criminals, and so forth. And then when he hits the DEIs of various federal governmental agencies, it's disproportionately chocolate. You got to keep that in mind. The Black middle class is the only middle class in the history of the American empire who has been disproportionately dependent on jobs in the government or public spheres.
Yes.
Most other middle classes are tied to the private sector with businesses and so forth. But Black folk, all we had early on was like my uncle in the post office. You had access to governmental jobs because the private sector was just so deeply racist. Now the public sector was racist too, but we got our foot in. So that when I listen to my good folk talk about the massive elimination of DEI, you can see how that's a continuation of the attacks and the assaults. Now you and I know, I mean, the DEI programs, they always had their challenges. I used to get invited to these different programs, and I tell them, where you come up with this DEI? Shit, I'm not going to live and die for no diversity, equity, inclusion. I'm dying for love, truth, and justice. Martin didn't die for no DEI. He died for freedom. He died for justice. He died for truth. Yeah. He died for his mama. He died for Coretta. He died for the kids. But in the bureaucracies, struggles against white supremacy have to come up with different kind of categories. So even given whatever flaws they had, it was a response to what you're going to do with these precious Black folk after they've been enslaved for 244 years and Jim Crow for another 100 years. And things are not fair and not merit driven. Now we get to claim what? We all about merit, doing away DEI. Then you look at Trump's appointees for a cabinet, his appointees for ambassadorship. Merit ain't got hardly nothing to do with it at all. That's the best Secretary of Defense you can come up with in the country? Please, get off the crack pipe. That's the best Secretary of so-and-so? We know it. Merit has very little to do with it. Very little to do with it. So it's just a rationalization of the escalation of the attacks and assaults on Black people. That's the war Malcolm was talking about. And I'm glad to see the boycotts coming. That's a particular response. Absolutely. Not just Target, but a whole host of others too. If the war is on, we got to escalate as well. But we got to escalate in the name of truth and justice and freedom. It's not just DEI program. That's just an instrument. That was just a tool. And it was a flawed tool, but it was still a tool to deal with some of these deeply racist perceptions and policies and behavior that we had been dealing with for over 400 years, ever since we got off that barbaric slave ship. But in the end, it's about your article. If we ain't got our spirits together, if we don't have our character, integrity, honesty, and decency together, if we don't have the long picture together, then we can't fight. And we do get crushed, because when you're a spectator in a war, sooner or later, the bomb's going to get to you. There's no escape. And to not choose is to choose. You already, always already are in the battle. You're on the battlefield. If you're in space and time, you're on the battlefield.
That's exactly right, Doc. If you are in space and time, you are on the battlefield. And I love how you said, if you decide not to choose, you choose. You've made a choice not to engage. Wow. When we come forward, we are going to continue this conversation. The doctors in the House laying it out based on the last speech that Minister Malcolm X gave in February of 1964, talking about war. And the other important point, war, you can't be a spectator in war. Eventually it's coming to you. That's something to hold on to. When we come forward, we will continue this conversation. You are listening to Truth Time with Dr. Cornel West and Nina Turner on KBLA Talk 1580.
Speaking truth to power and to the powerless. This is Truth Time with Dr. Cornel West and Nina Turner.
Sometimes I struggle to get to sleep. My body stopped for the day, but my mind is still running. So I take ZQuil.
ZQuil, the world's #1 sleep aid brand, has a range of non-habit-forming products to fit you and your family's needs. Invest in a great night's sleep for the best you tomorrow.
I'm awake and ready to take on anything.
Better days start with ZQuil nights. Explore our products at ZQuil.com. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
As a mom, comforting my family is what I do best. Vicks Vapor Stick provides soothing, non-medicated Vicks Vapors in an easy-to-apply stick. And it dries fast, so there's no mess. I use it to comfort myself and my family.
Thanks, Mom.
Vicks Vapo Stick, soothing comfort for the whole family. And when you need more comfort for yourself, try Vicks Vapo Shower Max for steamy Vicks Vapors. Use as directed. Vapo Stick for use ages 4 and up. Vapo Shower Max use for adults only.
If you have unfiled taxes or are in debt to the IRS, this is important news. Did you know the IRS has a program specifically designed to help people struggling with tax debt? Powerful tax assistance programs that can save you thousands if you qualify. No one knows these programs better than the experts at Optima Tax Relief, America's most trusted tax resolution firm, A-rated by the Better Business Bureau. Their award-winning team of tax attorneys and licensed professionals have resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for their clients. One call to Optima can start the process, helping to end your worries about wage garnishment, asset seizure, and other IRS actions. Make sure you're getting the best options to resolve your tax problems. Call the experts at Optima today for a free confidential consultation.
Call 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Oh, this new dose is... nope, that's not it. The price is nowhere to be found.
Mr. Green? Hi, it's all good. We've got this.
This is not just help from a Walgreens pharmacist.
Oh, new prescriptions. Cool. Let me check to see if these are the lowest cost options covered by your Medicare plan.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
This is someone supporting you every step of the way. Chat with a pharmacist today to find help saving. This is the human kind of help. Walgreens.
This is the story of the one who, as a maintenance specialist for a historic high-rise, knows that vintage charm historically needs constant attention. Which is why when it's time to upgrade turn-of-the-century mechanicals, they turn to Grainger. With easy access to 1 million+ products and the scale to deliver when and where you need them. The right tools and supplies are never far away. so the one can keep that vintage building running like new. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
To thine own self be true. More of Truth Time with Dr. Cornel West and Nina Turner coming your way right now on KBLA Talk 1580.
Thank you for coming forward with us. Dr. West was laying out a speech, one of the last speech that a minister, Malcolm X, gave in February of 1964, linking it to war. It's about war. And Dr. West linked it to what we are warring with today, both in this country and all over the world. And the summation is you can't be a spectator to your own demise. Everybody got to get involved. Everybody has to be accounted for. And speaking of being spectators, Dr. West, so we know you also made reference to the vulgarity of the Trump administration playing out in real time, and that their attacks on DEI is really just symbolic for other attacks that they are making globally when it comes to Black people and other minority and or marginalized groups. This is just the beginning. It's like the wizard being behind the curtain. It's all being done to continue to build a play for stripping away everything. I mean, for God's sakes, they done took away the Tuskegee Airmen. You know, any talk about the Tuskegee Airmen, they don't want any Black history programs. It is absolutely insane what these folks are doing. But they're doing it, and to the victor goes the spoils. I mean, which leads me to say the Democrats shouldn't have been playing games, Doc, when it came to really trying to win this election. They played the game, and Trump won the game. So Target, along with McDonald's, Walmart, and so many others, said that they're responding to the environment they're in right now. And so they're going to strip away the DEI programs. Now, my question to them is this. Were you ever serious? Did you ever really love me?
Ooh.
Or were you playing in my face? Because if they can do this so quickly and so easily, they weren't serious. They didn't want my hand, no way. They weren't trying to marry me in the first place. For Black people and other minority groups, these companies were not serious. And so there is power in our purchase. So there are a number of people out there saying boycott these businesses. My organization, We Are Somebody, is pushing for a boycott Target. We need to target one of these businesses very strongly and make an example of them so we can make examples of others. But I want people to think about this, Doc, and I can't wait to hear how you feel about this. A lot of these programs, especially on the DEI side, now, granted, the United States Supreme Court had already crushed race-based affirmative action. And what people don't understand, when you try to correct the wrong, and DEI is not perfect, affirmative action was not perfect, but you got to try to correct the wrong. And so that is really what affirmative action was all about, affirming that we messed up when it came to oppressing and suppressing Black folks. And then there's a ripple effect for other people of color. We got to try to make some crooked paths straight. The path's still not straight, but we got to try. It was a mealy mouth try. It wasn't the best try, but it was a try. So now we got DEI. I'm old enough to remember when George Floyd, because Target is headquartered in Minnesota. The symbolic nature of that. But I'm old enough to remember when a lot of these corporations were outraged by how George Floyd was killed. And then they decided to pour money into Black-led causes. I'm old enough to remember that. And they benefited from doing that. And so here we got Target that, you go in there and you see these businesses and you see, if you, especially hair care, for example, and you go in that aisle and you'll see something that was created by Nina Turner. They tell a little story about me. And then, now this is not real, y'all making this up, but, companies, and I don't have any products in Target. But the products, you get to read the story and you can decide, oh, there's a Black-owned business, there's a woman-owned business, minority-owned business. I can buy the product. So as soon as Donald J. Trump gets a second term and he puts out all of this stuff, companies like Target decide to say, oh, we pulling back from this. Boycotting is really just the consumer going on strike. Can I say that just one more time?
Yeah.
Boycotting is the consumer going on strike. And see, they being these corporations, and then the other they, because I like people to name the theys, the other they being the Trump administration, think that we, the collective we, the conscious-minded we, are just going to sit back and allow these folks to do whatever they want to do without some consequence. There has to be consequence. There has to be a type of moral outrage to what these people are doing, because it's DEI today is going to be something else that you love or impacts you tomorrow if we just let them get away with this. Our purchase has power. And so as far as I'm concerned, they need to be totally boycotted. And for the folks who are saying, because they've already done said it, Doc, but what about the black business, the black businesses that are selling things inside Target? Okay, I understand that. We want to protect them. I tell you what you do. You go to their website and you cut out the middleman. Because what I am sick and tired of, like Fannie Lou Hamer, is folks making excuses as to why they can't do this. Not all folks, but some of the folks. Because I'm going to take some time to answer some detractors. We can't do that. Oh, no, you can do that. We got folks in Montgomery, Alabama, who boycotted a bus system for 381 days, either walking to work or carpooling, getting pulled into offices of their white bosses, being told if they participate, they're going to get fired, being threatened. Some people were killed. We're not asking people to do any of that. So don't tell me you can't boycott Target for a month, starting February 1. Doc, what say you on this?
No, I'm with you. We got to come up with everything we can in terms of the repertoire of our weaponry. And by repertoire, I mean your toolkit. We got to use every possible tool. That's what Ephesians 6 is all about. When you put on the full armor, you use all of your weaponry, intellectual, spiritual, moral, economic, political, across the board. And we got to do something, as Du Bois used to say. Your point about the shift from affirmative action to diversity is crucial, because affirmative action called by Martin Luther King Jr. was predicated on reparations. If you don't give us reparations, which is morally required given the damage done, then affirmative action. Why? Because we still talking about quality, we still talking about merit, but we've had highly meritorious black men and women who didn't have the chance of a snowball in hell of getting a job. And you ended up with a history of white male mediocrity. And that's, of course, what you got in the White House for the most part. White male mediocrity beneath mediocrity. But in addition to that, beyond when affirmative action shifted to diversity, then you ended up with a whole lot of people of color as well, not necessarily folk who had been tied to slavery and Jim Crow. There's no doubt about that. But at the same time, you wanted fairness. But once it's called into question, you say, oh, we fall back on our own community resources, our own community businesses. We're going to be much more conscientious about that in a serious way. There's no doubt about that. And yet, in the end, though, my dear sister, we just got to get ready for some serious combat. That's really what we're talking about. Spiritual, moral, political combat. And of course, they're gonna try to kill some of us, and some of us got to be willing to die, but not everybody. But most importantly, we're gonna keep that tradition alive that you talked about in your powerful piece in the nation.
Yeah, Doc, we do. We definitely got to keep the spirit alive, and it's nothing like collective consciousness. And boycotting has a way to permeate because it's about the dollar. When our forebearers, and not that long ago, but I'm using that, let me just say the big mamas and the big papas of Montgomery, when they made that decision, that was not an easy decision. It was an easy decision to say that we're not going to keep being treated like 10th class citizens, paying you our money, and then we got to get off the bus and get in on the back, and then we can't even sit where you want to sit. And then if the bus fills up with too many white people, we got to stand up. Even our little section is in jeopardy. So making a collective conscious decision to say we are not going to take this anymore, and to meet up and light the spark, and to have other Black folks say, we with you, we with you. Now, they were detractors too. They just didn't have the benefit of social media. But it was detractors saying, woe is me, can't do it.
Absolutely. Well, the vast majority of churches didn't go with the boycott in Montgomery. And Martin understood that because they were scared. They were intimidated. And of course, they were concerned about their families and jobs, as everybody understandably is. But if all you concerned about your family and job, then we're going back to the plantation. Then we're going back to sharecropping. Those who went beyond family and jobs, those are the ones who opened the doors. Now, unfortunately, the last 40, 50 years, you got a whole lot of black folk who walked through the doors and then shut the doors and no longer connected to the roots and the masses of the people who opened the doors for them. Well, now they are getting shafted. And it's interesting. We're going to hear a whole lot of folk who've been milquetoast for the last 40 years trying to sound like Malcolm X overnight.
That's
Because
it.
it started affecting them. You see, now when it affected Jamal and Letitia with mass incarceration and poverty, inadequate schools, not enough health care, didn't say a whole lot. That was part of the slices of the middle class, fitting in, accommodating themselves. Now the black middle class getting hit. And we right back to the 1890s. We right back to that nadir. And my brother Larry Morris reminded me of Rayford Logan. We talked about that nadir. And he's absolutely right.
Yeah. Where were you? You know, where were you? And we have a moment. I mean, the footprints are there. I can see them. All we got to do is step in them. Because the hardest work, not that we don't endure things in our own time. There are many ways to die. It doesn't always have to be physically.
Right.
When you can't stand up like a human being and have dignity where you go, where you work, how you comport yourself in this country, knowing that you're going to be respected and appreciated, then we got a problem. And so either we're going to fall back and fall down or we're going to stand up. And we have the footprints. Now, we might put some 21st century on those footprints, but we got it. Literally, people were called into the offices of their jobs being told, if you participate in this boycott, we're going to fire you. People died, ran off the road. And then some of our co-conspirators who were not black, who assisted, were threatened as well.
That's true.
So people got to understand a lot has been put on the line. And so when you tell me you can't find another place to get toilet paper, I get it. Hell, all these places, if we analyze them, we're going to find some type of bigotry somewhere, as we know, especially when it comes to black people. We got that understood. However, we got to start somewhere. You know, I'm sure that in Montgomery, there were other places besides the bus system did not treat black people fairly and with dignity. We know that for sure. However, they had to pick a target, pun intended.
Pick a target.
That's what they had to do. And they did that 381 days. So what I'm saying to my sisters and brothers and family friends is we look at Target and McDonald's and Walmart and all these other companies, and we look at what is happening with the government, not only turning back the hands of time on the government level, but also trying to encourage or threaten private sector to do it. Either we're going to sit back and take this or we're going to have a response. We just meeting like in energy, Dr. West. We just meeting like energy. Y'all want to play these games? Okay. We raise you. We need some folks to boycott you so that you feel it in your pocketbooks.
No, that's real. That's very real. Part of the challenge is going to be, do we have enough black trust and black love to be able to sustain black organizational capacity to be such that we can pull off a significant boycott?
Well, you know what, Dr. West, that is the question. So when we come forward, as we coming forward, we got stuff for folks to marinate on. You are listening to Truth Time with Dr. Cornel West and Nina Turner on KBLA Talk 1580.
The truth will set you free, but first it might raise your blood pressure.
I'm not jiving you, man.
More of Truth Time with Dr. Cornel West and Nina Turner when we come forward.
I'm Tyreek Wynn with 4 things you should know with BIN News. Immigration raids are taking place in major cities around the country. The Trump administration has launched a social media thread showcasing what it calls the worst criminals arrested by immigration and customs enforcement. Tech stocks are plunging on Wall Street. Concerns over the Chinese startup DeepSeek sparked a sell-off with shares of Nvidia, Microsoft, and other AI-linked companies down sharply. Southern California's first major rainfall arrived over the weekend, and wet weather is expected to continue throughout the day. As a result, Los Angeles County Public Works is preparing for possible mudslides in areas scorched by the recent wildfires. The NFL's biggest game of the season features a pair of familiar faces. Jalen Hurts and the Eagles will be looking for revenge against quarterback Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in a Super Bowl 57 rematch. I'm Tyreek Wynn on the Black Information Network, your home for Black News First.
Lowe's knows that with job site delivery as soon as same day, you can get what you need without losing valuable time. They help, you save. Valid on eligible in-stock orders and select zip codes for same-day delivery. Subject to driver availability. Fees vary based on purchase. More terms apply. See Lowe's.com/same-day delivery for details.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The UCLA women's basketball team, number 1 in the country, is 20-0 after their 82-67 win Sunday at number 8 Maryland. Bruin center Lauren Betts dropped a career-high 33 points. UCLA is 8-0 in their first season in the Big Ten Conference. The Lakers and Clippers begin 4-game road trips tonight. The Lakers are at Charlotte. The Clippers are in Phoenix. The Kansas City Chiefs are in position to win their 3rd straight Super Bowl, something no NFL team has done. They'll play the Philadelphia Eagles February 9th in New Orleans. The last major sports team to win 3 straight championships is the University of Connecticut's women's basketball team. UConn was national champs in 2016, 2015, and 2014. The Lakers are the last men's basketball team to win 3 straight titles. They got the chip in 2000, 2001, and 2002. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, aka the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the Voice of Reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
I feel so alone.
I'm embarrassed to talk about it.
How can I help my kid if I can't help myself?
I can't remember when I wasn't stressed.
I don't like inside.
When you feel overwhelmed by your thoughts and emotions, it's okay to get help. You are not alone. CalHope is here for you with free, safe, and confidential mental health resources for youth, young adults, families, and you. Find support now at calhope.org.
Febreze. So my home is also my office. And before I can focus, every room's gotta be clean. That means tidying up and spraying my Febreze Air Mist. Ooh, that's fresh. Febreze Air Mist scents are all high quality. They fight any weird funk, and they give my air an instant boost of freshness. So not only does my home smell good, I feel good too. After I Febreze, it's time to start my day.
Breathe happy, Febreze, la 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 la.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down, get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
Ow!
This is where love and truth meet.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
You're listening to Truth Time with Dr. Cornel West and Nina Turner.
Thank you for coming forward with us on this day. Dr. Cornel West and Nina Turner, we have been talking about the Minister Malcolm X and his speech, The Doctors in the House, and that is how he opened us up today and how it links to war, both war in this country and abroad, and how we should be thinking about that. And in this particular moment, Doc, we're finishing up or continuing, I should say, our conversation about the boycotts that should be happening across the country and the fact that we can use that as a way to push pressure on these companies that have decided to just abandon is a good word, I think, to use here. Just abandon any modicum, just any shadow, if you will, of support for diversity. I as I said, I believe that they were faking it the entire time because they backed up so fast.
Yeah, it was quick.
And so far, Costco's is the only company that has said, "Nah, we not on that."
Well, so many of these companies, if not all of them, they are not just capitalist enterprises obsessed with short-term profit, but will too often act as if they have a moral conscience when in fact it's just a pose and a posture, and it's not for real. But as we were saying before, see, the challenge is going to be the quality of leadership that will be manifest in the boycott effort. So we began with Malcolm. His leadership was tried, and it was true in terms of him being true to what he believed. If you disagreed with him, that's fine. He just let you know where he stood. Now, in Martin's case, with the releasing of the FBI information on Martin, I wonder whether in the back of the mind of some of the folk in the White House, it's an attempt to try to undercut Martin, to reveal things about him that doesn't make him look good, and therefore can even lead toward the doing away with the holiday. You just don't know, but you see, there's a possibility of that. And you see, once you attack your major exemplars of Black leadership, Fannie Lou, Martin, Malcolm, James Lawson, and so forth, everyday Black folk become more cynical, because what's on the scene right now, you don't have a lot of high quality Black leadership. We just got to be honest about it. You don't have a lot of high quality leadership at all in the country, in a deep way. But when it comes to Black folk, we've always been leaven in the loaf. You see, we've always been in the moral vanguard, constituting the ethical conscience of the empire. Once you have Black leaders who sell out and sell their souls for a mess of pottage, then you attack a Martin King, who of course was imperfect and flawed. He's a cracked vessel like everybody, but it's still nobody liked the brother in terms of his love of truth, justice, and unbelievable willingness to serve. Then you can see how neo-fascist spirits tied to neo-fascist policies undercut any possibility of high quality Black leadership, and therefore folk remain disheartened, wrestling with that despair that you talked about in your article in The Nation. So these are just, speculations. I'm just kind of brainstorming, but we have to be very, very mindful and cognizant of all of the various strategies and tactics that folk are using who are coming at us with such ferocious attack.
The point you're making about them trying to erode confidence in the work that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. did, that's on point. There's no doubt about it. The timing of this, and coupled with every other thing that they're doing, eroding, it makes a whole lot of sense. And I sincerely hope that nobody falls for it, but especially Black people. What the collective we should not do, in my opinion, we should not put preachers, activists, public officials on pedestals. And see, that is part of the triggering problem here. No matter what comes out in there, it's the fact that we put certain people on a pedestal so that when they fail to meet the pedestal criteria, now we clutching pearls. when even if someone is excellent or extraordinary, of which the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was in his justice work, or somebody else in any other type of work, they are still human. They are still flesh and blood. They are still flawed. They are still subject to any of the temptations that any human being could be subject to, and therefore should not be put on a pedestal. Because once you put somebody on a pedestal, they come crashing down. I want to take me, for example. Now, I would be perfect, but for the fact I curse. Other than that,
ain't nothing wrong with expressing yourself in such a way you put a smile on Richard Pryor's face. But it's got to be tied to truth, though. You see, we got a whole lot of folk out here cussing tied to lies. You see that you and Richard Pryor, Mom's Maybelline, them, y'all cuss it, but it's tied to truth and it's tied to love. It's better to have a grandmama who cusses out of love than a grandmama who never cusses and can't stand you.
That's it, Doc. I do. I curse in truth.
Exactly. And our grandma, of course, my grandmama never cussed, but if she, well, actually, she cussed at the end of her life when she had dementia. She never cussed, and all of a sudden, all kinds of talking like a sailor. I said, "Oh, grandma, this is fascinating." But it was still tied to the love inside of her.
She was holding it in all that time, huh?
I love it. Oh, yeah, that's T-Rose. T-Rose started coming. I told my brother Cliff, I said, "Dad, I didn't know grandma had all that in her." Well, she got it, the timing and rhythm and everything. But it was tied to a love, see?
That's it. Cussing in love. I like that. I am going to use that. I'm cussing you in love. Taking it as love. But, my major point is that we should not put anybody, even if they're excellent or magnificent in what they do in their service, whatever that service is, to uplift humanity. For the love of God, don't put people on pedestals, because people are human. They're flawed, and that's going to be part of it. So they're releasing, to continue on this point, MLK, RFK, and I think some JFK stuff too. So it's no coincidence that they're doing this. They're doing this on purpose. They're doing it in delight, but that does not mean we got to fall for it.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah, we don't have to fall for it. So speaking of falling for stuff, the op-ed and the whole notion of despair, and so many people are in despair because President Trump is President Trump for the second time, and I get it. And I acknowledge it. I understand it. I just wanted to write what I called an open letter because I didn't want folks to just stay there. And I think Dr. King has a quote about, you're going to face some despair, face some hard times, but basically you gotta keep going. And I'm paraphrasing. It was more eloquent than what I'm saying. But that was it. And it I thank the Nation magazine for printing that, and I do want to share a portion of that with our audience. I'll probably do that when we come forward. But that you had a chance to read some of it. I was just trying to strike a tone of I understand, because I think sometimes people's feelings are dismissed, and I didn't want to dismiss how people were feeling. And this is not a but. And put out there, got it, but we got to keep going. I actually used a quote from the one and only, the Moses of her people, Harriet Tubman, who said something like, if you hear the dogs, keep going. If there's torches after you, keep going.
Keep going.
Come on, if you want a taste of freedom, keep going.
Keep going.
Don't ever stop. Keep going. And that's pretty much, how I that was the foundational point of the op-ed, that we're going to catch some hell. You're going to go through some stuff, both personally and collectively. But what we must not do, two things: we can't despair and we can't stop. We got to keep going.
That's it. That's it. Harriet Tubman say, "Mama gonna shoot you dead. You make too much noise and end up having all of us recaptured and taken back to slavery. I'm gonna have to straighten you out now so that your actions don't have a negative impact on all of us." And what else did she say? She said, "I would have saved more if more of the slaves knew they were slaves."
That's it.
I'm telling you, that's at the heart of what your peace, your life, and your witness is all about how we're going to keep going. And you see, I don't have anything against despair as long as it's not the last word.
Yeah.
Most folk in despair have a touch and a connection with reality. That's why they in despair. Ain't nothing wrong with being in despair as long as you don't stay there, as long as it's retail and not wholesale.
That's a word, Doc. That preaches. You're right. People are in connection with something that is going wrong. That's an excellent point.
Absolutely. If grandmama dies, you ought to be in despair. My daddy dies. Yes, I'm in despair. Absolutely. That's why Jesus keep me near the cross. That's why I dip into that blood and find power in that blood, because I'm in despair. But it's not going to have the last word. That's the thing. Folk walk around not in despair at all. Something wrong with them as the American empire collapses and declines and decays. They see all this suffering in the world. You ought to be in some kind of despair.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
Agree. I had a boss who said, if your hair is on fire, act like your hair is on fire. That's Mayor Michael R. White of the great city of Cleveland. Baby, if your hair is on fire, you ought to act like your hair is on fire. We will continue this. If your hair is on fire, you ought to act like your hair is on fire. When we come forward, it does. When we come forward, you are listening to Truth Time with Dr. Cornel West and Nina Turner on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's Truth Time with Dr. Cornel West and Nina Turner on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey, Mom, I've been meaning to talk to you about some new COVID information I saw online. I read that 3 out of 4 adults in the United States have a high risk factor for severe COVID-19. And Black folks like us with certain conditions like diabetes, heart disease, mental health conditions, or being 50 and older are at high risk.
Boy, you sound like a commercial.
I'm just saying. I know you love your ginger teas and essential oils, but remember, there are treatment options for COVID-19.
I promise if I get sick again, I'll call my doctor to ask about my options.
Sometimes I struggle to get to sleep. My body stopped for the day, but my mind is still running. So I take ZQuil.
ZQuil, the world's #1 sleep aid brand, has a range of non-habit-forming products to fit you and your family's needs. Invest in a great night's sleep for the best you tomorrow.
I'm awake and ready to take on anything.
Better days start with ZQuil nights. Explore our products at ZQuil.com. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
This sandwich is not just spicy, it's flavorful. Hi, this is Batayo. And this is Elsa. And a little thing I love about the Chick-fil-A Grilled Spicy Deluxe Sandwich is that spicy kick. Because the spice comes in at just the right moment. Oh, no. A little thing I love is that cilantro lime sauce. It's a fun blend of zesty and bold. That's what really makes me happy. Are you going to eat all your fries?
Order a Chick-fil-A Grilled Spicy Deluxe Sandwich and a Diet Dr. Pepper on the Chick-fil-A app for a limited time. Real guests paid for their testimonials.
1 in 3 children born today will get diabetes. This sad prediction by the Centers for Disease Control will come true if millions of Americans don't improve their lifestyles, especially by changing what they eat, how much they eat, and how active they are every day. Every 23 seconds, another American gets diabetes. Stop diabetes before it starts. To learn more, contact the American Diabetes Association or download our free diabetes education programs at learningaboutdiabetes.org.
Truth shall rise again. You're listening to Truth Time with Dr. Cornel West and Nina Turner, only on KBLA Talk 1580.
So, Dr. West, just a portion of the op-ed. I won't just pointing out the highlights for those of us, for those listening to us today. So if you want to read the entire op-ed, go to thenation.com. That is thenation.com. Or you could also find it on my feed, on my social media feeds at Nina Turner. So we owe it to our forebears and families, our communities, and future generations to keep fighting for just causes. And that was the whole premise of it. And so I lay out that, President Trump was inaugurated, no people feeling heavy. All right, we got it because we are uncertain about the future. And uncertainty can bring despair. And because a lot of folks understand who's in the office, as you refer to him, got gangster proclivities, or he is a gangster in the White House. I think you say he's straight up.
Oh, straight up. highly crystallized gangster, and the whole country is being gangsterized. But get right back to your statement.
And right there, you lay it out. So I said, as I look back on our nation's history, I feel optimistic, not because our history is positive, and not because our present is good, but because I see the mountains we have scaled and overcome. I have faith that we can come together and confront our challenges because they did not start with Donald J. Trump and will not end with his presidency. So that just thoughts about that space, because even after 2016 and we had 4 years of him, and then we get the Democrats in control, and then the rematch, if you will, between Trump and Biden, and then it was Trump and Harris. Even as Trump was not in the White House over the last 4 years, I saw the neoliberal types continuing to blame Donald Trump, President Trump, and the man wasn't even in office, instead of taking ownership and using power in a way that ameliorated problems. And that bothered me. And that's why I had to make that point, that the isms that we face, the challenges that we face, they can be exacerbated by him, but they didn't start with him and they won't end with him.
You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. And it goes back, of course, to the founding. It goes back to the very origins, the stolen land and the stolen labor, and the white supremacy at the center, and the denial of the humanity of indigenous peoples, the denial of the humanity of Black people, and thinking that somehow you could just get along by predicating your project on that denial and on those lives. And sooner or later, you reap what you sow. Chickens do come home to roost. And when the chickens come home to roost, one form they take is, let's go back to when America was really great. When was it really great? When these folk knew their place. These Black people knew their place. These Black people running around scared and intimidated. These Black people running around not wanting to organize and fight and boycott, but rather defer to the powers that be and accommodate themselves to an unjust status quo. Oh, that's what's great to you? That's not great to us. Not at all. We look at the world through a different set of lens. And our lens is closer to the truth, because y'all in denial. When you're in denial, it's either falsehood, which is unintentional, or lies, which is deliberate and intentional. And we dealing with lies.
And that point about being in denial, I mean, even in his inauguration speech, he talked about the glory days of this country, that it was a wilderness that was conquered and settled and made better by Anglo-Saxons. I mean, that's really what he's saying. The natives didn't matter. Enslaving Black folks, Africans, and then their descendants didn't matter. We made this a better country. We made it great. So let's make it great again. Wow, we are really covering some ground here. You're listening to Truth Time with Dr. Cornel West and Nina Turner on KBLA Talk 1580.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, Black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The Los Angeles Regional Food Bank is on a mission to fight hunger and provide nutritious food to those in need across our community. They partner with federal, state, and local programs advocating for better policies and funding for critical hunger relief programs like Cow Fresh, the Emergency Food Assistance Program, and the Child and Adult Care Food Program. The food bank works with coalitions and local representatives to make sure hunger is addressed in every district of LA County. They also run nutrition education campaigns, raise hunger awareness, and source nutritious food for distribution, all while supporting regulations that allow food pantries to operate safely. Want to help? Visit lafoodbank.org or call 323-234-3030 to volunteer or find a food bank near you. Together, we can ensure that no one goes hungry in Los Angeles County. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Time is up. The IRS is in full collection mode for 2024, issuing liens, levies, and garnishments to anyone who has a past tax debt or unfiled tax returns. Don't wait till it's too late. Your paycheck and bank accounts are at risk of being seized. Call now and stop the collection process today. If you're living check to check, no matter how much you're making, you still may qualify for the Fresh Start programs offered by the IRS to reduce or even eliminate your tax debt. It's just a 5-minute call to get your options, and it's free. If you owe back taxes, have years of unfiled tax returns, under audit, have a wage or bank levy, or finally just want to sleep better, business or personal, call the experts at Republic Tax Relief while there's still time. A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, and tough. This veteran-owned company has the fight you need to take on the IRS. Don't go at it alone. The call is free. Call their hotline number now, 800-652-1714. That's 800-652-1714. Find out if you qualify today. Call 800-652-1714 or go to republictaxrelief.com.
This is where love and truth meet.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
You're listening to Truth Time with Dr. Cornel West and Nina Turner.
I'm back.
Thank you all for coming forward with us. We are continuing our conversation about the op-ed that I wrote, trying to encourage people not to stay in despair, as Dr. West laid out. Don't stay there. You might jump in a little bit, but you got to jump right back out. It was in The Nation magazine. If you want to read it in its full form, go to thenation.com, or you can go to any of my social media pages and pick it up. So I also laid out what the challenges are that people were waking up to. The fact that the federal minimum wage is still $7.25. The fact that most bankruptcies that are filed are based on medical debt, and that over 68,000 people are either uninsured or underinsured at any given time in this country's history, that almost over 500,000 people are on the streets at night on a regular basis, and that homelessness is increasing. So I'm laying all that out, Doc, but this is the major point for this. Our mission has not changed. That's what I wanted folks to understand. Our mission has not changed. Our fight to ensure working class Americans from all backgrounds have their basic needs met and have the ability to live a good life has not changed. The ruling class who buy elected officials has not changed. Therefore, our pursuit and commitment to just causes have not changed. Our mission remains the same. So in other words, let me break that down. No matter what these folks are doing, no matter who is in office, those of us who are committed to just causes, our assignment remains exactly the same. So in the way that we would have lobbied a President Harris is the way that we must lobby a President Donald J. Trump. That's just how we got the role. And so we got to continue to push. We have got to keep going. We cannot stop. That was the premise of it, Doc. That was it.
That's it. And that's continuous with the credo that we talked about with our Black church leaders for a number of years, a number of weeks. That crescendo of voices. And you hear it all the time on KBLA Talk 1580 and other places as well, especially here. And your voice, I think, is just such a powerful one. You know, Anna, he and I were listening to Angela and Renee out of St. Louis singing that song. You don't have to cry alone. I'll be there by your side to help you hold on.
I'll be there by your side. You've been listening to Truth Time. We will come forward tomorrow. You've been listening to Truth Time with Dr. Cornel West and Nina Turner. We definitely delight in seeing you tomorrow.
Monica.
I'm Tyreek Wynn with 4 things you should know with BIN News. Immigration raids are taking place in major cities around the country.